from what happened, and I'm enormously proud of the positive and vibrant campaign that I ran in spite of this situation. And I'm just so moved by the people of Poplar and Limehouse who have stood by me. But they, as I am as well, are struck at how lawfare has been used, albeit unsuccessfully, against me, and how his right to pursue me, including publicly slandering me, seems to be protected. And when I continue to raise this with a range of authorities and people seeking support, I was repeatedly given the impression that there was very little that could be done. And where has this been reported in the media? And it's not as though, it comes at a time when I think it's not as though the safety of members of Parliament has not been of public interest or indeed newsworthy. What is it about me that evokes this deadly silence in this regard? And why are women's experiences of domestic abuse treated so differently? Now, it might seem strange to some that I raise this whilst advocating for press freedom, but clearly, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not press freedom. And of course, it is obviously connected to the fear of litigious perpetrators and the law around defamation itself. Indeed, the National Union of Journalists are warning of the current threats to press freedom posed by the use of litigation, or indeed the threat of litigation itself. I've even had contact with journalists from mainstream outlets investigating my situation, and in some cases I understand have even drafted full articles which were then blocked by their own editors on what was referred to as legal grounds. And yet invariably no such care is taken when it comes to printing smears about me. And what a strange world that we live in, that accusing me of lying, and indeed all sorts, is not viewed as damage to my own reputation. Now, further to this, the growing trend of journalists targeted directly when receiving threats of legal action instills fear that deters any future journalistic content on an issue. And yet, Madam Deputy Speaker, the free expression of survivors sharing their truth is a matter of public interest in my view, and it outweighs the private interests and the right to reputation of an abuser. Preventing the misuse of litigation and the use of the law to silence survivors of domestic abuse and violence is central to freedom of speech. The United Nations and others have warned about gendered censorship taking place around the world, and that there is clearly an imbalance in the system between his right to reputation and usually her right to free speech. As Jennifer Robinson and Kana Yoshida, authors of How Many More Women, succinctly put, and I quote, "Legal change is possible, and fight back we must, because if we don't, how many more women will be silenced?"